Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to Zoom into Freemasonry by the Buckinghamshire Freemasons. Just some headline notes to give you before we start the meeting proper. We will be keeping you on mute during the meeting, and that's just in case you have a knock at the door or a dog barking for the comfort and convenience of others. There are currently 31 of us in the meeting, so welcome and let's get started. So this morning, what we're going to cover is who we are as Freemasons. We'll talk to you about what we do. We'll talk about our history, our experiences, and during and afterwards, we'll take questions. So let's get started. John.
Good morning, everybody. My name is John King, and I've been a Buckinghamshire Freemason for 16 years. Our presentation today is to help you gain a little insight into who we are, what we do. There are over 6 million Freemasons in the world. In England and Wales, there are over 175,000, and in Buckinghamshire alone, we number around 3,000. We are one of the largest charities in the UK, which means that as a Freemason, you have access to a 6 million strong network of friendship. You can become part of an organisation that prides itself on helping others. There are many reasons why people become Freemasons. I joined because my friends attended and I was intrigued by the mystery of Freemasonry. What I found was so much more than I ever expected. I'd now like to hand over to Simon Williams, our membership officer.
Morning everyone, my name's Simon Williams. I'm the membership officer for Buckinghamshire, and along with my team we're tasked with getting more people involved in Freemasonry. So why do people join Freemasonry? Well, later on in the presentation you're going to hear a little bit about how Freemasonry started in 937 AD, and as you can imagine, the reasons for why people join Freemasonry today will be very different to why people joined them in those days. Although, interestingly enough, I have been informed by our historians that back in those days, their Zoom presentation followed a very similar format to the one we did today. So what I'd like to do now is just run a quick poll. And can I just ask everyone if you could just give an answer as to why you think people join Freemasonry today? Wow, that was some tension with the music there. Thank you all for taking part. Now, I'll be covering a bit later in the presentation, a bit more why people join Freemasonry today. But before we do that, we felt it's important that we tell you a little bit more about the history of Freemasonry and how our great organisation started.
Let's have a look at some of the charity work that we do. As you can see from the slide, our charity work does include Freemasons, but is not limited to just Freemasons. We give awards to a wide-ranging part of the community, from helping families to medical research. Recently in Buckinghamshire, we've been donating to a charity for medical detection dogs. They already can detect such things as cancer and sugar levels in diabetic sufferers. Now, some of that money that we have given is being used to train the dogs to detect COVID-19. Every penny that we donate to our charities is given back out to others. Not one penny is deducted from our fundraising for administration or salaries. We have a proud record of giving, and with over £6 million a year donated by our Central Charitable Foundation, we are proud of our record in helping others. So that's charity. So who can become a Freemason? Like every organisation, we have rules and regulations governing membership. But the short answer is anyone who is over the age of 18 years old, who has a belief in a supreme being and who has no recent criminal record can join. As a Freemason, you will have a chance to socialise with people you may never have encountered before. I spent time after meetings with a nuclear physicist, a butcher who served on the jury of the great train robbers, and an existing friend whom I never knew was a Freemason until I joined. You never quite know who you'll meet next. And with a history that dates back over 1,000 years, you may also be quite surprised by some of the historical figures who've been Freemason. So let's look back at where we started. Steve.
Okay, so when did it all begin? Well, back in the dark days of the Middle Ages, King Athelstan, who was the first king to unify the various states that made up England in those days, around the sort of 900s AD, at the Battle of Brunanburh. He vanquished the Vikings and got everybody pointing in the same direction, unifying the nation. To do this, he was quite forward thinking. He centralized government and brought in all sorts of standards. So a picture of the coin shows that he standardized coinage across the land. He standardized all sorts of things, including masonry, making sure that masons worked to the same standards right across the country. Now, masons organized themselves in lodges, and these lodges started admitting non-masons, and the first one recorded was 937 AD in New York. Right, so these were operative masons, i.e. they actually cut stone. That's one thing Freemasons don't do, unless they are an operative mason. They were skilled workmen. They travelled between towns and jobs, if there's a church or a cathedral or whatever being built, and around these building sites they created lodges where they could eat, drink, look after each other, and basically it's their way of becoming masons and getting work. That's how they created it. They moved from lodge to lodge to get work. But then other people started joining who weren't operative masons, and they were speculative masons, grey.
The speculative masons were really impressed by what they saw of the operative masons lodges. They liked the fact that people were brought together to support one another, that there was a network there. But for speculative masons, the one thing they lacked was the actual technical expertise to craft stones, to actually build cathedrals and churches and large structures. But they were genuinely interested in the fraternal and spiritual side of Freemasonry, which is why eventually they were admitted in as what's called speculative masons. And there was one particular speculative mason that you might actually recognize, Steve.
And here we have Elias Ashmole. Now, you certainly would have heard of him in regards of the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford. He was a founder of the Royal Society along with other Freemasons, such as Sir Christopher Wren, Isaac Newton, and he became the first sort of speculative mason in the 17th century, and he did that in Lancashire. So Freemasonry was spreading across the country already back then.
I think it's interesting that we've also got the Royal Society being founded by himself, and then along with Sir Christopher Wren, who has made many impressive monuments over the years that cover the skies of Europe. But for us, why are we telling you this? I guess for the modern Freemason, we do reflect on its origins back to the operative and the speculative Freemasons. And although we talk about the building of a temple, i.e. the Temple of King Solomon, the stories we tell are quite allegorical, and it's really more about ourselves, where what we're really trying to do is make ourselves better people. In our meetings that we hold, and we'll talk a little bit more about our meetings later on in the presentation, but in those meetings, we tell stories about the olden days, and they're a bit like mystery plays. Now, for these stories to be told, because we don't take books into our meetings, we have to learn our lines. So we learn these lines and in turn recite them back to one another. And if you're at all interested in history and art, you'll find it absolutely fascinating. It's a very, very rich history. We continue to refer back to stonemasonry because really this thing about self-improvement, which is what we're all about, comes from a rough stone being smoothed so that we ourselves can be part of something great and solid. And what we've found in Freemasonry is that not only does it give us this refinement, if you like, but it also actually makes us more confident speakers, because there's quite often that we get an opportunity to stand up in front of a group of people and say something. It might be a few lines that we have to recite, but it might also be things such as a speech, or it might be a thank you that you need to give. Now, for some of us who do this in our day job, fine, but for others who've never really had to stand up in front of a room full of people and say something, actually, the first time you do it, it's an interesting experience, but over time, you actually grow to enjoy it, and it's brilliant for the individual growth and development. And another thing that we've realized through Freemasonry is how we have a really broad group of people who are Freemasons. We're multicultural, multi-generational, and there probably is no other society or organization where you could attend a meeting where there could be people aged between 18 and 98 years old, and we come together as equals, and that's a great experience to share. And now in life, there are certain challenges that we face as time passes, and one of those can be memory. And we found that Masons, actually, their memory is retained and improved quite simply by learning stories and remembering words that need to be said during our meetings. And another facet to that is social isolation. If you think Freemasons, wherever they are in the world, hold regular meetings, and that might be once a month, it could be once every few months. In some instances, in North America, for example, they actually meet weekly. So there's a great social circle there. And if you don't have a massive number of friends, perhaps you're at a point of retirement where most of your social circle was made up of colleagues and business contacts, then perhaps you don't have a great social circle, and Freemasonry really will give you that. And last but by no means least, what we get out of Freemasonry as individuals is a sense of well-being, because it's all about helping others, and we really do feel that we make a difference. So Steve, let's have a quick chat about what makes a modern Freemason. So there's some guiding principles. So what does respect mean to a modern Freemason?
You've already answered that question, Greg, really, because respect is making sure you treat everybody as an equal. And as he said, regardless of age, religious persuasion, whatever, respect everybody, treat them as your equal.
So how about charity, Steve?
One of the founding base stones of Freemasonry is charity, helping those less fortunate in their times of distress. But it has to be said, the caveat there, don't do it so that you become unfortunate. You know, you're disadvantaged. You're actually helping people, but not disadvantaging yourself.
So how about integrity? How does that play its part in modern Freemasonry?
Integrity, making sure you, as it says on the slide, understand yourself and your impact on others. You know, if you're a real boorish lout of a man, you won't be a very good Freemason. You know, it's we want people of measured behaviour.
So what about friendship? Is that important to a modern Freemason?
Of course it is. It's one of the main reasons I think people do it, because they make a lot of friends. I've made some good friends in Freemasonry, and I'm sure there's more to come as I go through my Masonic career and meet new people.
So those 4 guiding principles really give you some insight into what a modern Freemason is. But there's a wraparound to all of this, Steve, isn't there?
There certainly is, and it's fun. Now, you don't do anything if you don't enjoy yourself. So yeah, Freemasonry can be fun.
So there's our guiding principles. And what we're interested now is just getting some sense from yourselves about some of the myths that we can discuss. So I've got a short poll that I'm going to put on screen for you, and we'd be interested in your response to these questions. Okay, thank you for participating in the poll. Interesting results. So let's go through each one in turn. Steve, are there strange handshakes? Yes or no?
Well, it's a simple yes, and 79% of them got it right. Yes, there are handshakes, and we use the handshakes to identify ourselves as to what level of Freemason we are.
So how about the rolled up trouser leg story? Is that true? Is there any basis in fact?
Yes, there is. When you first become a Freemason, you are meant to portray you at the lowest ebb of your life. So therefore, you roll your trouser leg up to show that, you know, your clothing isn't perfect. So yes, we do roll up our trouser legs occasionally.
Brilliant. And here's the big one. So tell us, are there secret passwords? And if so, what are they?
There are passwords. And if you think I'm going to tell you in this open forum, you've got another think coming.
There are certain things in Freemasonry that are a bit like the plot line of a film. Why would you want a friend to tell you how the film ends before you get the opportunity to experience and watch it for yourselves? And that's exactly the same in Freemasonry. You know, if you can't sleep at night, all of this stuff's available on the internet. But what we certainly say to people who are interested in becoming Freemasons is resist the urge to go to Google and search these things out, because there'll be lots of spoilers in there. Some of it will be untrue, some of it may be true, but you can guarantee that those things that are true, if you find out about them in advance of your first meeting, it may be a little bit disappointing for you. So we try and discourage people from doing that where possible. So thanks for participating in that, much appreciated. Steve, we've got a really important symbol that I think most people will recognize. Can you tell us something about the square and compasses?
The square and compasses, indeed. Or more correctly, a square and a set of compasses. Both of these are tools used by architects in Freemasons. So the square lines up stones, compasses to measure our work. And if you think about it, the square and compasses regulate our behaviors and our actions. So we keep on the level, as it were, a phrase often used about Freemasonry. They're used in Masonic ritual as emblems that teach us lessons, symbolic lessons.
I mean, it's a universal symbol, really, isn't it? This one that's on screen at the minute has so you can see we've got the square at the bottom here, and then we've got the compasses overlaid. And then at the top in this circle, we actually have an interesting emblem that relates back to Grand Lodge, doesn't it, Steve?
It does. It's known as the Hallstone Jewel.
Yeah. So those of you that are interested, just search afterwards, just search for the Hallstone Jewel, and there's some fantastic information available from United Grand Lodge of just about that particular thing. So John, tell us about the ceremonies that we have.
Thanks, Gray and Steve. Our ceremonies have taken place since Freemasonry began. They're split into what we call degrees. Each degree tells a story for you to think about. The effect of these simple yet highly crafted stories is to help you develop and grow as an individual. These stories are reinforced by symbolism, such as the square and compasses, which is ever present in all our lodge rooms. Now, you can see from the slide, they deal with the 3 stages of man. These stories have been around for a long time, so much so that some of the phrases we use have been absorbed into everyday language. One you may already have heard of is the phrase, giving someone the 3rd degree. This is derived from our 3rd degree ceremony, where in the olden days, a candidate learns a set of large questions and answers to pass to the next stage of Freemasonry. These are put to him by the head of his lodge, hence the term, giving someone the 3rd degree. There are many surprises in Freemasonry. One of them may be that there are women Freemasons. I strangely found out just a few months ago that my paternal grandmother was a female Freemason. I never knew that until just very, very recently. Lady Freemasons belong to an organisation called the Honourable Fraternity of Ancient Freemasonries. It is only for women and organised by women. It was founded in 1913, and membership is open, just like the male part of Freemasonry, to women of any race or religion who are able to profess a belief in a supreme being. The order has many lodges in the UK, and it also shares premises with us here in Buckinghamshire. So if anybody tells you there are no women Freemasons, you've seen the visual proof for yourself. As I've mentioned before, there are a lot of Freemasons in the world. In Buckinghamshire, we have 116 lodges and 3,000 members. We meet between Monday and Saturday. Sunday is the day we have off. With very few exceptions, a Buckinghamshire meeting can be found to attend every night of the week. That once you are a member of a lodge, you can then visit, with very few exceptions, any lodge in the world without charge. You'll find that you've probably joined the most truly welcoming and fun-loving organisation in the world. If you join a golf club whose fees are considerably higher than our own, you can only play that one golf course usually. Here, you'll have access to thousands and thousands of lodges, whether you're on holiday, on business, or just travelling around the country. And no charge other than probably your meal if you want to stay for one. So what do we do at these meetings? Steve?
Who controls the British crown? Who keeps the metric system down? We do, we do. Who leads Atlantis off the maps? Who keeps the Martians under wraps? We do, we do. Who holds back the electric car? Who makes Gutenberg a star? We do, we do. Who robs Kingfish of their sight? Who rigged every Oscar night? We do, we do.
And I thank you there from the Stonecutters from The Simpsons. Yeah, it's not quite like that really, because if we were going for world domination, we've been doing it for too long, and we're not dominating. So our meetings are held numerous times a year. My own mother lodge meets 5 times a year. And what do we do in our meetings? Yes, we do have administrative processes. We go through the minutes of previous meetings. We have propositions, notices, standard admin stuff. Any society will have such processes. The main ceremonies we do, and here we had John refer to the 3 degrees. Each degree has its own name. So an entered apprentice is how you first come into Freemasonry. That's the 1st degree. And when you've been in a while, you get promoted up to fellowcraft. And again, you're given a 2nd degree set of questions to answer to prove that you've learnt enough. And then finally, you get the 3rd degree, so you become a Master Mason. Above that, you then can be installed as a Master of your lodge, which some of us were hoping to do this year, but COVID seems to have stopped that. So they're important parts of our meeting, but after every meeting, we have dinner. Now, we call the dinner a festive board. Freemasons like to give good names to everything. Food, there'll be toasts, like we toast the Queen, for instance, and there's a great deal of laughter because there are speeches made and general good bonhomie. Oh yeah, we have a raffle as well. It's one of the main money raisers for Freemasonry is our raffle. So now some people say we're very secret. Well, yes, we are. You know, it's the fact that you're here finding out about Freemasonry will show that we're not so secret as we used to be. Right, before World War II, you know, we were part of the community. If a building was going to be put there, and you can see on the screen now, the ceremony laying of cornerstones, usually done by the provincial Grand Master or the Grand Master of Freemasonry in England. And we openly paraded in our regalia around the towns and villages, and we openly donated and helped local causes and local communities. But that all changed. Yes, a man called Hitler got in the way. So if we talk about Germany, 1934, Hitler declared a number of organizations that were going to be disbanded. One of them was the Boy Scouts. The other one was Freemasonry. He thought Freemasonry was part of a grander schism to sort of overtake that, so he banned Freemasonry. So when the Germans invaded Jersey, they destroyed the Grand Lodge. That's the picture of the building there. Freemasonry then went underground. The Blitz meant our curtains stayed drawn, which we still keep our curtains drawn now. And keeping mum lingered long after the war. We stayed private for many decades, and our families were no longer part of the social fabric of the local community. Trust in Freemasonry was greatly diminished. You know, people spoke about Freemasonry in a really bad way. In 1983, the book called The Brotherhood came out. Now, it's a book I read before I was a Freemason. And if I'd have believed everything in that book, I would never have become one. It's shocking rubbish in there really is. But what did Freemasons do about this? Well, they did nothing. They just kept quiet. We didn't respond. And virtually overnight, centuries of fantastic work that we've done, totally undone. It was a PR disaster.
So, thank you, Steve. So what changed in 2010? I think the main thing is we realised that we needed to move with the times and that things needed to change if we wanted to secure the future of Freemasonry. We needed to be more open. I think we'd all admit we were a very closed society, but hopefully you can see by events like today that we're a lot more open now. And we do want to tell people about what we do. And more importantly, we want more people to join and more people to benefit from the enjoyment of being a Freemason. One of the major changes you'll see is actually in the attitude of people who are involved. So whereas years ago, you know, if someone was a Freemason, they might have kept it under their hat. Today, you'll find that we're actually proud to tell people we're Freemasons because of all the good work we do. And the reason we do events like today is to give us the opportunity to respond positively to the mistruths. It can show that we're accepting of societal changes in lifestyle. So as you can see from the slide, we have both female and male Freemasons. We promote each other's work. We're inclusive of any nationality or religion, and we can do this without losing the history and our traditions. So what 2020 should have been? Well, it should have been a lot more of what we've been doing over the last few years since 2010. We've been at events like village fetes, county shows. We've been out there telling people what we're about. We help a lot of small and large charities in sort of our villages, in our country and across the globe. We offer support and donations to things like air ambulance, blood bikes, first responders, defibrillators, the fire brigade. We help with high reach ladders. We also do things like where we offer PSA testing to people across Buckinghamshire. We do a lot of work with younger Masons to keep their interests and get their input. And generally, we're out there reminding our colleagues and our friends that we're just like you. In fact, some of us are you. So although we've still been doing a lot of this in 2020, like our charity support, because of COVID, we haven't been able to do all that we've wanted. And I think that's really because, like the rest of the country, COVID has hit us hard. All of our regular meetings were cancelled in March till September. That's had a massive effect on the money that we raise for deserving causes. Our meetings did resume again in September, albeit now with only 6 people that can attend, which is very different to our normal meetings, which can vary from 20 people up to over 100 at a meeting. But as a membership officer, and from the membership point of view, we are finding that getting new members on to join is a slightly longer process than it was before. And the reason for that is we have to take safety very seriously. And we always want to make sure that our procedures are aligned with the government's policy. However, along with the theme of moving with the times, we are finding new ways of using increased technology to combat this. We talk a lot about the work we do in our community, and I think our response to COVID is no better example of this. We realised that there are a lot of people and organisations that were in desperate need of help, and we looked at the best ways that we could assist them. We very quickly established that there was a serious shortage of PPE equipment, particularly in care homes and hospitals. So with the help of some existing Freemasons who actually diverted some of their resources within their businesses to make us over 3,000 visors, which we distributed to care homes and hospitals across Buckinghamshire. We also purchased 100 tablets that we delivered to hospitals to enable patients that weren't allowed visitors to keep in contact with their relatives via FaceTime or Zoom. We delivered tons of food and goods to food banks to help with their massive increase in demand. We found a lot of vulnerable people who were even struggling to have a decent meal, which is shocking in this day and age. But with help from all of the Freemasons across Buckinghamshire, we delivered hot meals to the elderly who couldn't get out, to homeless shelters, housing associations and care homes. And I'm talking specifically about Buckinghamshire now, but this was happening across the country by all Freemasons. I mentioned we're talking about COVID and members across Buckinghamshire that help with our efforts. So I thought I'd just show you a quick slide to show where we have our centres across Buckinghamshire. And as you can see, we have a wide range of centres covering the whole of the province. Wherever you live within Buckinghamshire, we can normally find a centre to suit you. So why do people join Freemasonry? Well, contrary to popular belief, it's not because we get off parking tickets or speeding fines or the plans for our new extension get improved. If someone were looking to join for those reasons, unfortunately, they're going to be very disappointed. The fact of the matter is it's actually the total opposite. When someone joins Freemasonry, they have to make a commitment that they'll never do anything to the detriment of themselves or other members. So why do people join today? Now, you all did the poll and you chose lots of different answers, like the charitable work, the social aspect, the history. And it's true, very often someone will join for one particular reason. But what we find is once people have joined, they tend to benefit from all the different areas of Freemasonry. You've heard today a small part about the charitable work, the work in the community we do, and there's no doubt that gives you a nice feeling to be part of that. And it was one of the main reasons I joined. But what I wasn't aware of is all the different other areas I would benefit once I joined being a Freemason. So the social aspect, the camaraderie is a big part of what we do. I've made some great friends from Freemasonry. And one of the things I've actually liked is they're not just friends from my normal peer group. They're friends from all different ages and all different walks of life, which has really broadened my horizons. It helps a lot of people, as we touched on earlier, it helps a lot of people with self-confidence, self-development. We say that Freemasonry is about making good men better. Now, it might sound like a bit of a cliche, but I can say from my own experience that I know that Freemasons across the country would say that this is the case. And this is the reason why we currently have 6 million Freemasons across the world. So we've talked a lot about the charitable work, the community work, the history, a lot about the serious sides to Freemasonry. But I can assure you that we wouldn't have 6 million Masons across the world if it wasn't fun. And for me, that's certainly one of the areas that I discovered, and I've found that I've really enjoyed the fun aspect of Freemasonry. What we do realise, though, is fun varies for different people. For some people, it's going to meetings with their friends and having a few drinks after the meal. For some, it's learning about the history. For others, it's getting involved in things like we do, like golf days, clay pigeon shooting days, and fishing events that we put on. But one thing we can assure you today, Freemasonry offers a great variety of things to do just to ensure that everyone can enjoy it. And going back to what we discussed about moving with the times, we realise that things need to change and we need to move with the times. So we've started to introduce some themed lodges for people that have particular interests. And as you can see from the slides, we've got different lodges like classic car lodges, motorcycle lodges, country pursuits, even caravan and camping lodges, rugby and emergency services. And also in Buckinghamshire, we're at the forefront of making Freemasonry family inclusive. So by putting on a number of events, we're encouraging members to invite family and friends. So what's the next steps? Well, you'll have seen earlier from the eligibility side, what's actually required for someone to be eligible to join Freemasonry. However, this doesn't necessarily mean someone can join. It's very important for us to understand, whether people are actually suited to Freemasonry, but more importantly, if Freemasonry will suit them. We want to be sure that if someone joins, they're going to enjoy it, they're going to benefit from it, and it's going to be right for them. And the only way we can do this is by talking to people individually, finding out what they're looking for by joining Freemasonry, giving them some more information on what we do. We do try and cover a lot in this presentation, but we feel we need to give you a lot more information to enable you to make that informed decision. So you'll see up on the slide, there's a few different ways that you can contact us. And if you would like to find out more about joining Freemasonry, we'd ask if you could either go to the buckspgl.org/info information and complete the form. Just to let you know, Bucks PGL actually stands for Bucks Provincial Grand Lodge. The other thing you can do is you can actually email us on the membership@buckspgl.org email. Or for those that have a bit more technical ability, there is a QR code there, which I'm sure, Gray, you can most probably tell me a little bit more, but I assume if you scan your phone over that, it will bring up the joining form?
That's correct. It'll do just that. Yep. Yeah. It's designed to give you fast access to those pieces of information that you can see on screen right now, and it will save it to your phone.
Cool. If you guys are interested in finding out a bit more, there is a lot more information we'd give you, and if you could either contact us via one of those messages, one of the membership team will contact you to discuss it further and let you know what the process would be. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Simon. I've had a question into me, which is, if I'm not in Buckinghamshire but I want to be a Freemason, can I email that address for you to put me in contact where I live?
Certainly. Yeah, if you could just email us, we can actually pass you to the Provincial Grand Lodge of your area. Someone will be in contact and they will give you all the information you need.
Also, you can join a Buckinghamshire if you're just outside. So if you're just over the border, that's not a problem either.
Great, thanks for that. Another question I've received is, do we offer associate memberships? So this is from an attendee who actually is a Freemason. So by that, I assume he's a Freemason somewhere else in the world and wonders if he could have an associate membership to a lodge in Buckinghamshire.
John?
There is something called country membership in most lodges. So if you want to join a lodge as a country member, the fees are reduced. But don't forget, as a Freemason, you can still visit any lodge in any province in the UK, and by checking with Grand Lodge, probably to most lodges in the world. So you don't have to be a member to be an associate one. If you want an affiliation with a particular lodge, but don't want to have to commit yourself financially fully to it, you can become a country member, and there are reduced fees for that.
That's super. Thanks very much for that, John. Another question is it possible? Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Robert. That answers your question nicely. Thank you. Thank you for that. Another question: is it possible to become a Freemason while we're still under lockdown rules with COVID? What would happen if I join or try to join now?
Okay, I'll answer that. Yes, you can. You can still become a Freemason. As I mentioned earlier, the process is taking sort of a little bit longer. We have had a lot of restrictions on meetings, but you can still become a Freemason. We're adapting things to make sure that can happen. We're keen to get sort of more people involved. So yes, you most certainly can.
Excellent. And is it possible using that email address for any of our attendees who have a partner or a friend who is a woman that is interested in joining women's Freemasonry to be put in contact?
Yep, that's not a problem at all. If you send on to the membership email address, we will pass it on to the relevant people that will be able to help.
Great. Thank you, Simon. Another question: how much does it cost to be a Freemason?
Well, okay, I'll cover that. So it's certainly not as expensive as people think. So just to explain, the lodges tend to meet, it varies between 4 to 6 times a year. So you will get slight differences in the costs of joining Freemasonry. You do have an initial cost when you join. That's a one-off cost that goes to United Grand Lodge. Someone might be able to correct me here, but I think that's between around £120.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's around 100. That's just a one-off cost. Your annual subscriptions for being a member of a lodge do vary from roughly maybe 150 up to about 250 to 300 pounds. The reason they vary, for example, with my lodge, we meet 4 times a year. We pay our annual subscriptions. However, we only pay for our dining on the night. So each time we have a meeting 4 times a year, we normally have a 3 or 4 course meal, which costs us £23. So we don't include that in our annual subscriptions. So for our lodge, the annual subscriptions is £150. Some of the other lodges will include food and wine in their annual costs. So their fees may be £250 or £275 a year. But that's the cost of joining.
Yes, I might add to that as well, Simon. In my lodge in North Buckinghamshire, we probably have around 70% of our attendees will stay on for the meal, but not everybody does. They may have a pressing matter that means they can't stay on for the meal. So there's no expectation that you have to stay for the meal and pay for the meal. And our meals is the 3 course, and I think it's £16, £17.
I remember
what
that.
I normally do, Simon, I budget £25. So that pays that pays for my meal, it pays for a pint of beer, and it also pays for my raffle tickets, which brings me neatly onto a question that I've been asked, Steve, about the raffle. What's the purpose of the raffle? Where does the money go?
Where does the money go? Well, it goes into the charity account for the lodge in particular, and the lodge then chooses how that is going to be used. You know, it can be a contribution to a local charity. I know my lodge, we always give money to the local hospice, or it could be going to the Masonic Charitable Foundation, which is the overarching charity that is run by Freemasons, and the MCF helps all sorts of organizations, charities, you know, all over the world, in fact.
Yeah. So, I mean, it'd be fair to say as well, for the benefit of everybody on the call, that wherever you are, there's a high likelihood that there will be a lodge somewhere near you, maybe not in the town that you live in, but certainly in a bigger town nearby. And, you know, they all have a charitable fund that's set aside for local charities. And it is possible for any organization to reach out to lodges and just say, is it possible? Could you help us? We're trying to raise money for a sensory garden. We're trying to raise money for a defibrillator. So it is possible that lodges can help you. And it's one of the, for some reason, it's not well known that lodges are out there to help you. So if you're part of an association, do consider reaching out to a lodge near where you live. Another question in, hello, how many times in a year do you perform your meetings and on which days of the week? John, over to you.
Yeah, the meetings are Monday to Saturday. We don't meet on a Sunday. In Buckinghamshire, you'll find there is probably a meeting every single night of the week somewhere within Buckinghamshire. Across the country, there will be many, many meetings every night. And once you've joined one lodge for that small fee of about £150, you have entry to all those other lodges without charge. So any night except Sunday. In Buckinghamshire, there are, I would think about 500 or 600 meetings a year that you can attend.
So just, John, following on from that, just thinking about now timings, many Freemasons are still working, therefore, you know, time's precious. What sort of time of day are meetings held in Buckinghamshire?
They do vary, but most lodges meet around 6 o'clock in the evening, which is still a little bit early for some. Other lodges have started to extend their opening hours and will start 6:30, 7 o'clock so that people can get back from work and get to a meeting. We even have daylight lodges. So if there are people on that don't fancy driving at night during the winter to a meeting, they can go to a meeting that's held during the day. So basically anytime, but mainly in the evening, mainly starting at 6 o'clock, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. But that's part of what we were talking about talking to you and working things through with you. We try and pick a lodge that works for your individual needs. And because we've got so many, that's usually quite easy to do.
That's great. Thanks very much for that, John. So a part of that decision-making process, I guess, for anybody on this call that thinks I'm interested in Freemasonry, and Simon, you might help on this. A question to ask yourself is, at 6 p.m. or 5:30 in the evening, where is the nearest Masonic lodge? You know, where would you as a Freemason go to visit? Because we need to leave work and then drive to there. So is it fair to say that the decision can be as much about where the nearest town is to where you work than to where you live?
Yeah, I think there's a number of factors that need to be considered when people are looking at joining a lodge. I suppose the lodges, an average lodge, as I mentioned earlier, will meet sort of 4 to 6 times a year. Those dates are set in stone. So, for example, my lodge will meet in October, they'll meet in December, we meet in February, and we meet in April. It's the first Saturday of each of those months. So I know for the next 20 years exactly what date my lodge will meet. So a lot of people are finding that although, yes, maybe it does start earlier, sort of 6 o'clock, and they might need to leave work a bit earlier, as it is only 4 to 6 times a year, and they know when those dates are, they can normally fit it in. But going back to your point, yes, the important thing is to make sure it's convenient for you. And it has to be either close to where you live or close to where you work. And that will just make it a lot easier and a lot smoother and a lot more enjoyable because there's less pressure to get to meetings. We do have Saturday lodges, which for those people that feel it might be difficult to actually attend a meeting during a week, they can look at the various Saturday lodges that we have available as well.
Thanks for that, Simon. Just a follow on, how long do meetings go on for and what sort of time would they finish approximately?
So it varies depending on what's happening within the meeting. I'll give you an example of, say, for example, my meeting. We meet on a Saturday. The meetings start at 5:30. So we tend to get there most probably at about 5 o'clock, maybe have a drink in the bar. The meeting can last, if I would say, approximately sort of a couple of hours. After that, you go back to the bar. Normally the raffle might come round. Then we'll go through to have our festive board, the meal that we talked about earlier. Normally that would finish at approximately about 9:30, 9:45. So, you know, if I'm going for a meeting, normally it will be from 5 till about 9:30, 9:45.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Another question I'll throw onto the table is, can non-members identify a Freemason member in everyday business? For example, do Freemasons wear a special ring? John, do you want to pick this up?
Yeah, of course. There are rings available for you to wear if you want to do so. Most Freemasons don't show it outwardly. Occasionally you'll see a little pin that's got a square and compasses on. Once you get to know the ceremonies, there are sometimes phrases that you hear people say in everyday life that sort of indicate to you that they might be a Freemason. But there's no overt recognition signals that we send out. We've got ordinary pins. You can buy them on eBay. You can see them anywhere. And if someone wants to promote Freemasonry, I wear a pin on a couple of my coats. I've also got a car sticker in my car that gives you the web address you've seen, buckspgl.org/info, in case anybody sees it and want to join. So I'm proud to be a Freemason and let people know. But there's no secret way that people try to communicate that Freemasonry is in business. As we've said, there should be no pecuniary advantage to being a Freemason. And if people come in expecting that, this is not the organization for them.
Yeah, it certainly should never be positioned as a business network where being a Freemason gives you influence. That's not what it's about at all. So, okay, so another question here. I went to United Grand Lodge of England in London a few years ago. There were several meeting rooms there. And I wonder, do Buckinghamshire lodges ever meet there? John?
Yep. Well, not Buckinghamshire lodges as such, but we have a meeting once a year for the whole province. The province is a county, if you like. And there's normally about 300 or 400 people turn up. And we have that in the big central temple that's at the Freemasons Hall near Drury Lane in London. So yes, we can go there and meet, but we can go in there and attend any other lodges that meet in there. One of the popular lodges there is Chelsea Lodge. And Chelsea Lodge is an entertainer's lodge. So you'll see a lot of actors and people on the TV, musicians. I think Rick Wakeman's a member of that particular lodge. And they have some fantastic social do's that people go to. So you can attend there if you are a Buckinghamshire Freemasonry. We have one meeting a year there, which for the last 2 years, we've invited our wives, friends to come along and see what we do there as well. And that's in the great big hall. And afterwards, we go for a nice meal in the Connaught rooms or something like that with some entertainment. So that's a picture of the Grand Temple. And you can see it's quite a spectacular place in there with the mosaics on the roof and the galleries. And the galleries at the top, people can sit in and look down. So that's open, not just to Buckinghamshire Freemasons, but we make it open to wives and partners as well. Someone's asked about the dress code there. I think I've seen one. There is a dress code because we believe that everybody, a bit like school uniforms, it makes everybody the same and keeps them equal. Dress code is very simple. We ask for white shirt, dark tie, a dark suit, black shoes and socks, or dark socks. And that's it. Now, later on, you've probably seen, and maybe this is what the question's about, you'll see people with stripy trousers and jackets. This is morning dress. And this was a mode of dress that was brought in after the First World War as a sign of respect for those people who gave their lives. Indeed, the whole building in London was set up as a peace memorial for those people that died during that conflict. So the dress code is dark suit, white shirt, tie. Once you're in, you can change to the more formal dress that some of us wear, but that's really down to you. Yeah, no one is going to criticize anybody for not buying the various suits that we have.
Okay, just on a related note here, one of our attendees has asked, will I be allowed to wear my kilt to the meeting?
It's compulsory. It's especially on Burns night. No, it's not.
Especially on Burns night. Yeah.
I have even worn my kilt to a meeting or two. Yes, of course you can wear a kilt. Not a problem at all.
Excellent. It's probably worth mentioning about motorcycle lodges, because they're quite interesting. If you ever go to a lodge that's designed specifically for people who are interested in motorcycles, quite often, rather than wearing the conventional dark suit, they wear their motorcycle leathers, which is absolutely fascinating. That's quite a sight to see when you're used to seeing people wearing dark suits.
Yeah, so we're quite flexible on this matter, but there is a standard of dress that we like. Kilts, yep, that's good, especially around Burns night. Robert Burns himself was a Freemason, and every February his birthday is celebrated. And I've got to say, we do tend to eat haggis for about a month around that time, but it's and whiskey, so that's quite good.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're just coming to the end of this session now. If you've got any more questions, please put them in the chat. Some of the team are going to stay on after 11 o'clock. So if you want to stay on and have a conversation, that's fine. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I hope you found it interesting. For those of you that aren't Freemasons yet, I hope it's given you pause for thought. And I hope that we've provided you with sufficient information for you to make a decision as to whether or not you wish to move forward. And for those of you that are Freemasons on the call, I hope that you found it interesting as well to see how we, Freemasons in Buckinghamshire, engage with everybody. So that's a big thanks from the team in the province of Buckinghamshire, and we wish you well for the rest of the day.
Great. Could I just add something there? Guys, thanks a lot for attending. We've tried, as Grace said, to get a bit across about what we do, the charitable work, the history side, the fun side. But it's very difficult in a short presentation to get it all across. We'd love the opportunity for you guys to contact us and let us tell you more about what we do, give you a better insight to what we do, and then just help you make an informed decision as to whether it's for you.
Okay, that's super. That's all from us, the team. But feel free to stay on to have a chat. Getting some great thank yous in the chat. So great. Really glad that you've all enjoyed this morning's session. If you have enjoyed it and you've got friends, family who might be men or women who are interested in Freemasonry, we will be doing another session just like this in the coming months. And if you keep an eye in our Facebook channels, and through our other social media channels, and also you can contact us through our email address, we can provide you with information about when that is, so you can share it with your friends, contacts and family members. So that's a good day from us, and enjoy your day.